So Campbell, like, let's get to business here. So into some Tartaria Australia talk.
Yes.
So last week we had that amazing interview with the Strongs, and that was like met with so many great comments, and like definitely people are eager to start to hear more about Australia in depth and how it relates to this sort of consciousness unfolding. So call out to anyone in our community watching this who has any information or anything that they would like to add to the piece, the picture, to do with Tartaria and Australia and the story of our original people and our like real history here, and anything that you could add to that. If you'd like to get onto the podcast with us, don't be freaked out. It's so cruisy, and just have a chat, or email us. Like, it'd be really cool to start from within Australia, bringing everyone's piece of the puzzle together.
Yep. Yeah, just go into the Facebook group. We'll leave a link below, but Tartaria Australia. Tag Kelly, and let us know that you want to come on, and we'll hook up, because this is the thing. It's everyone out there is a piece of the puzzle, right? There's people out there that have got all this information that so many people would want to hear. So if that's you, even if you don't think it's spectacular, if you've got some information, let us know, and we'll get it out there, because we need to uncover and the more that we uncover the true story, the more that this facade story starts to look more silly for more people.
Absolutely.
It's definitely practical as well.
Yeah, I mean, we got to do it, guys. We got to like work together as like one creative mind as we uncover this, because I knew nothing about it apart from my own. Like, I stumbled across it, fucking understood it straight away, was ready for it, connected it all, and then just started making videos of Melbourne, where I am, like, and that's just allowed us now a platform. So you don't have to have like the most top secret information to feel like your information's viable. Just like, come and join us, come and talk.
Yeah, exactly. We all started somewhere. God, my first video was crap.
So all right, so we thought we would do it like, there's two things I wanted to talk to you about today, which was the Shrine of Remembrance.
Yes.
Having been highlighted by our protest yesterday, that's where all the tradies gathered, and it's like now been like this hot talk. So, and having a look at that's actually been fascinating, guys. So you wait till we run you through that. And the second thing was just to touch base on the orphan boats that came to Australia. This was in a Facebook feed that I got the other day, and I thought, wow, I've actually never seen photos, so I wanted to bring those up. So what order do you want to do this in?
Let's jump into the shrine, shall we?
Let's do it.
I've got a couple of pics. Do you want me to bring them up?
Yeah.
All righty.
So the history of the shrine, ... I'll get up the history.
Yep. Yeah.
And you get up the pictures.
I'll get the pics and you can narrate.
It's an interesting one, because with the Shrine of Remembrance. So that was yesterday. Yep.
So that.
Look at that.
So basically, not Romanesque at all.
Basically, they're telling us that this was built in the early 1920s. So around 1917 to like 1920 something. And I couldn't find any construction photos, which they definitely should have had then. Look at that. I mean, what? No construction photos apart from scaffolding over the columns, which we see all the time in these old photos. So it definitely, Campbell, could have been something that they just blocked off from the population. And we're starting to really get the sense that when they say, opened on 1929, what they actually mean is like, we formally invited people to come and see this thing that we have not let them see up until now.
Open to the public.
Yeah. And have you noticed that with all these, because I've been diving into Melbourne, I keep noticing the same fucking phrase. It goes like this. And then they held a competition to see who would design it. Like, I hear it in every friggin' building as I look at, then they held a competition.
That's how architecture started. No one knew how to design buildings, so they just held competitions and people randomly just designed them, and they just happen to be the best buildings ever built and still standing, some of them. So Amazing.
I mean, the amount of people that like actually got to enter these architectural competitions was quite profound in the 1800s, I tell you. So look at that.
Look at this one. Yeah, this is, wish it was bigger, but you can see, look at the landscape here. This is clearly finished.
Yeah.
And I mean, clearly not brand new, right? Look at all the what do you call that, seepage or whatever out of the bricks, all the black. And look at the level on this ground.
Yeah.
It's going everywhere. And look what's on the top.
Yep. Is that still on the top now in the new?
I think this bit is, but this sort of
yeah,
whatever this stuff is, that's all been taken off. But that's, you know, we see that everywhere, right?
So it definitely looks like it's something that could have been dug out of the mud. Like the bricks look like they definitely took some maybe water damage. And
look at these columns. It's just,
yeah, I mean, look at the columns. And it definitely feels like there was a lot to go. We should get this one done as an artwork. It feels like we're on the tip of something huge with the Shrine of Remembrance. Do you get that feeling?
Yeah. It's I mean, it just looks like the top of a big building, or I don't know, it could even be a citadel, because in Fremantle we've got a war memorial, and maybe it's something we should look into, is all the different ones. And because the one in Fremantle, I'm pretty sure that's a star. It's a star that's been buried. Yeah, because, you know, they're big square built. They're so, you know, like, why? for a shrine of, and this is the inside of it.
Yeah, right.
Like, look at that ceiling.
Wow.
Like that's again, you know, that's fractal geometry stuff. That has no place. In a shrine of remembrance that's just built to remember fallen servicemen. There's no point. All these Roman pillars with the scrolling, that they have no place being there at all. It's got nothing to do with Australia. It's got nothing to do with, you know, anything. And you can see that the only thing to do with the war, they clearly look like they're different stone to the rest of it. They're a lot lighter, and clearly they could have just been put in there.
Absolutely.
They're not part of the structure.
And those, of course, the tops of those columns we see all around the world, don't we? Yeah,
everywhere. Everywhere. You see that sort of symbol, that scrolling. I mean, look at this brick too, this cup. Well, that as well, that looks like, I don't know, stone, maybe sandstone, but that looks like a facade. You know, they just cut them like tiles and just put them over, and then they just sort of can change the look of it all.
So obviously, and we've got the central feature there. That comes up a lot also in the Tartarian buildings, which used to have the like engine or something on it, like the machinery.
Exactly. I mean, just look at this. It looks like some kind of cooling station, doesn't it?
It does.
It doesn't. I mean, this is the thing. You know, the only thing about this whole structure is these little plaques of people killing each other. That's the only reason it's a shrine of remembrance. So everything else about it. And this one, is this on top of it? This must be something behind it. Must just be a funny picture. See this big spire thing?
I think that's the road. I think that's
I see. Yeah, right.
Maybe. I think because I was standing.
I couldn't work it out. Yeah.
I think that's what it is, because I was standing in the middle of the road yesterday, about where that ends, that pointy bit, and I could see right up to the Shrine of Remembrance.
I mean, and that's another good look how straight that road is. Like literally, I thought that was it. I couldn't work out.
That's like Swanston Street, right up through the whole city, and it's flanked by Flinders Street Station and St. Paul's Cathedral.
And what do we see when we look at cities from above? You know, cities like Canberra and Washington and all these places, just these massive long boulevards that lead to buildings like this. And of course, we've got these sunken.
Which is so weird.
These are new, aren't they? These were added.
And they're so weird. It's almost like an inversion of the Star Fort. Like, what is that shape? It's just so strange.
It is. And in the old pictures of this, you had one, Kel, and there was actually a wall around here, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And that's gone. But just the layout, and we've got, of course, it's got the circuit, right? The circuit road. But that's really so typical, especially with that massive boulevard of what you see in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you can see that it's outside of the other buildings I've been exploring, which are across the rivers just in front of that road.
Just in here,
yeah. And so most of the buildings are on that side. So this easily could have been kept away from, and like it probably didn't even need to be kept away. It just needed to be formally noted publicly that we have just opened this thing.
Yeah. Well, you think with new cities, new cities, not that we see them, new cities
well,
anymore. Where there's a couple out there.
Oh yeah.
But they start and it's like, well, and they still do it now with like new estates. It's like, well, here's the suburb that you all go and live in. Now that's full. Here's the next one. Yeah. Here's the next one. So they keep people in a certain area.
Yeah.
And where that of course the housing is close to where they work, so they don't venture out. And
absolutely.
And it doesn't matter if a couple people see it. Oh, that's just a rumor. Blah blah blah.
And you look at these. I mean, like, there's have you guys done any research on the ghost cities? Like, that blew my mind. Like, there is literally hardcore, massive, millions of houses, like fully built out cities that have all these mimicking of the old realm, all built into them. Like, when I first saw it, though, these ghost cities that are all around the world, a lot of them in China, a lot of them around the China, Mongolia. When I actually looked at them, I was like, oh my God, that's the reset right there. Like, they just like kill out the populated areas, like reset everyone, and everyone moves over to the new cities and loses their consciousness for the old cities like Melbourne, and then they do their thing and then reintroduce everyone. Like, we don't even know if all the people didn't actually go missing because they weren't in their photos, if they were just not in another place on the earth, like in another city that we don't even know about because it's been deleted from our history and Google and everywhere else. Like, they could just have been in one of these Chinese ghost cities for all we know.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. I mean, we all know what Google Earth does. We've got they supposedly got all this technology, and what happens every year, instead of it getting better and it's able to see more, it gets worse and we can see less. And now to the point that you can zoom in on some buildings and it's like you're looking at a game. Like, it's clearly not a photo. It's clearly got nothing to do with reality. It's just like some 3D bloody image. Yeah. But here again, here it is. Now, you can't really see the wall there, but this is pre those things. Interesting, it's got these 4 points. And with that new stuff, the one thing I did notice is, it turns it into an 8-pointed star, or there's also that, what do they call it? The 8-pointed asterisk. There's another thing that appears a lot, that asterisk thing. So yeah, that's just another point. And I think that's all the photos I've got. Look at this. What's that building down there?
Yeah,
I've got some of old Melbourne, but
just get my bearings. If that's the road, that could be the military college. I will go and check that one out.
Got a nice big dome there.
It does have a nice big dome.
But I mean, that's a good perspective shot, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Because that building, it's got a dome. I mean, that's clearly a fairly sizable building, because here's the road and it literally goes a whole block. Look at the size of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? Exactly. Yes.
What is going on there?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
and it looks so Egyptian pyramid-y. It looks so, I mean, it's the weirdest design.
It's so short, isn't it?
Yeah.
it's way too short. It's literally like the top of a building that you see in New York in the 1920s.
Yeah.
It's like the top of one of those skyscraper things.
Yeah, it's just absolutely. Like, there is so much more underneath that ground. Yeah, absolutely. I'll show you the picture I've got of the really old one. I just
I wonder if that's wheels, like depicting what it was, if it's like spinning, if it actually did have something in the middle, it was spinning, it's telling us it's a machine.
Well, it definitely has that sort of vibe. It has a sort of funnel for the energy. Like, it's got like that sort of up and out sort of vibe.
Yeah.
Because have you seen all the photos of the pyramids recently? And they've all got these massive columns of light coming out of the tips of them.
Yeah.
Like they've been popping up all around the world, even in like non-official pyramids. So yeah, they definitely harness energy in some capacity, and that looks like no exception.
Wouldn't that be awesome if a big beam of light started popping out? That'd scare the police.
Well, it's not, you can't, like, the coincidences of the protests yesterday after the earthquake all accumulating onto the Shrine of Remembrance, which potentially has got the capacity to like blast out something, is, it's fascinating to me. I think like what's happening in Melbourne is not this weird event that like is made up of all these random coincidences.
It's a ritual.
Yeah, it's a ritual. Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
I think that they really wanted, clearly they tried to incite it. I think they wanted everyone to fight back yesterday. They wanted, to start a war basically with all the tradies. I mean, they literally went in and just started shooting them with rubber bullets.
They did.
So they were clearly trying to get some kind of result, which gladly they didn't. So hopefully that sort of stuffed them up. But
it definitely feels like it got, like, they've definitely ambushed the situation and done it with such terrible, what's the word? Like, they've just been such
intention.
Terrible intentions indeed. Yep. So I'll just I'll bring this image up and screen share this to you guys. This is just one that I found interesting because it was one of the original, hang on, let me screen share. One of the original drawings, apparently, illustrations, because of course they didn't have cameras back then, but they didn't, because no one can make up their mind for their photos or weren't their photos. But yeah, can you see that? That's got a real...
It's got the wall around it, which is now gone. Now gone, yeah. It's also, look at all those statues. It's got 4 statues. They're not there anymore. And are they like obelisks, like the twin poles? Look at that.
Yep.
On the 3 directions.
Yep.
That's very.
And doesn't it look like it's been placed in one of those like cymatic gardens, those really high-end geometrical.
Yeah, like you see it, like the Palace of Versailles and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
and
definitely. And this is the thing with drawings, right? Is, we never know how true it is, but they've got this massive thing that clearly would have, taken a lot of time and effort to build that.
Yep.
But look what's in the background. There's nothing.
Yep, exactly. And the thing with illustrations is, like, people are pretty bad with their imaginations, especially after a reset. Like, it's not like, I don't think, that's why I really like the illustrations we look at with Flat Earth British. Like, I'm just like, yeah, this is more historical than everything else I've seen, because, like, you'd have to have fucking insane imagination to come up with these illustrations and these monsters and these, like, interpretations. Like, to me, that's what they were seeing. They were illustrating what they were seeing.
Well, yeah, this is the thing. If it's crap, then how come all these people illustrate the same things?
Yep.
Right? The same, like, every continent has stories about, werewolves and vampires and other weird creatures and elves and dwarves and gnomes, and, it's in the consciousness, but we're not allowed to talk about it. Well, they don't want us to, because that lets us see more, right? That's stuff that's in a wider band of frequency, and they don't want us opening up to it. But I agree. And one thing I noticed, like, as well, I had another drawing, but that one as well, the perspective.
Yeah.
Where's this guy sitting?
Yep.
He's pretty high up in the sky, right?
Yeah.
And look at the rest of the background. They're trying to tell us he's not up in a building. So, airship, anyone?
Crazy, hey? So, yeah, there's some really weird little, that's very, I like that one. It's got you can see the regalness of what it.
And also, it's like the Strong said, back in, when these were all these would have been commissioned drawings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So commissioned by so if they went up and showed something that wasn't accurate, they would have been laughed at.
This is the first one. This is the only one I found that had any form of construction going on. Of course, classic.
It looks pre-1928 though, doesn't it? That landscape. There's nothing there. A couple of farms. It's,
did you say you had a photo with the mud, just surrounded by mud?
That was that one that we saw.
Oh, that's one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I only did it. I'll have a look and see what else I can find. But I think we'll next time we'll maybe go into all of the memorials and shrines, and of course this is called a shrine, right? And what do those people who meet in funny groups like to call themselves? Shriners.
Yeah, exactly.
So who's this really built for? Who's it really worshipping?
Did you do a search on there? I did a search for like anything connecting to any sort of satanic, ritualistic, anything like that. I couldn't find anything, but that just made me think there was definitely something. So
we'll have to get Dale on and ask him. He'll know.
Yeah. So this is 1934, apparently.
1934.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hang on to that because if we can find a picture from like 35 or 36 that's doesn't have that wall and all the statues, it's like, well, what's going on there? Because I've never seen those statues before.
Well, they're gone from this photo, I think. Anyway, the mysteries. So, all right. So I wanted to show. So any other thoughts on the shrine? I mean, I definitely in summary, let's summarize.
Is that an obelisk?
Huh?
See in the background there? Can you see my cursor? You probably can't.
I can't see your cursor. Which little
off
photo?
To the right-hand side, kind of just off, just angled off. Left-hand side. I guess is it for you? Everything's reversed.
Classic.
On the hill there's just a really, really big, tall thing.
Are you talking about this photo?
Yeah. The one that's on the screen still, the old one.
Oh, I didn't know where you
photo of you. Oh, you've moved it, but
I've moved, buddy.
Okay, it hasn't moved.
It hasn't moved. All right, let me just stop share, and that will get us back to thing. So, I'm just going to bring up. So, I mean, I just think that basically we're looking at something very Tartarian, obviously. It's been there for a very long time, obviously. It feels like it's got, it's the tip of a much bigger structure. We could probably deep dive and find lots of evidence of just mud everywhere. I would say they really had to dig that one out. I think that's what they did during that time period. The bricks, they look, like they've had water damage and a bit of that sort of moisture damage going on, and there's no construction photos, of course, and nothing about the interior relates to Australia. And really, apparently that thing got opened basically World War One happened, and Australia, when World War One happened, Australia, Melbourne had been in existence for not very long.
Yeah, 1918.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
One lifetime, basically, one generation.
Less than 100 years, yeah.
Yeah, less than 100 years. And then we send everyone off to war, because we've got so many people here to send back off to war. And then we build a pyramid.
Yeah, and that'd be a good thing to look into, is because clearly, that whole period and World War II, most of 80-90% of the working men were gone. And then of course when they came back, a lot of them were dead, so you have this massive shortage in workers, don't you? So, and I'm sure if we look back, they'll give us a massive line of buildings that were built in those years.
Yep.
It's like, well, who was building them?
Yep, absolutely. So I know it literally
look into that.
It literally goes, no one was here, white settlers turned up, nothing was here, just Indigenous camping, gold rush, Melbourne, yep. Great Depression, war,
a few years, war again.
Yeah. And we had to send, not only did we send all our able-bodied men to the gold fields,
yeah,
and then we sent them all again to the war, and in between that we had a Great Depression.
And that's the best thing about the gold fields, the gold rush. And literally every story is they just went out and it was just a patch of bush. And then, within 10 years, there's massive red brick buildings everywhere. But all the people who could actually build those buildings, they were out trying to find gold.
Yeah.
So who was building the buildings?
Yeah.
And who was making the bricks, and who was tracking everything in? You know, this just doesn't exist.
Who was building the factories that built the buildings? Building the factories that built the bricks, that built the buildings.
Yep.
You know, that's what I said. Like yesterday, I was walking around the city just to sort of like, because it's equinox, to sort of like vibe around with some God energy back in the city. And I went to St. Paul's Cathedral, which is right next to Flinders Street Station, and walked around the corner of the cathedral. And like, there was this amazing scene of this like Tartarian archway and like this beauty. I'd never seen it, right? And I actually went through a moment where I actually felt this like energetic time shift going on inside me, because all these buildings I have seen basically over the last 20 years, but this specific one I had never seen. And it was so embellished and so still there and so Camelot-y that I was just like, whoa, man. Like, and then I was just looking at, and right behind it is like this block of apartments. And I'm just thinking, it is absurd. It is absurd for us to stare at these buildings and then say 200 years ago, we had the capacity to build them. And then right behind it is our current capacity. And you're going to argue with me or try to debunk the fact that like we went from that to this in 200 years. Like, it is an absurd debate.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
You know, and you go to every single, you know, pioneer village, and what do they show you? Wooden shacks.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, if they, but then you go to the narrative, red brick buildings everywhere.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make. There's one story, and they're clearly trying to cover it up with another one and hope no one looks too deep, because you don't have to look that deep to just go, oh my God, this is just all a bunch of crap.
Yeah, basically 5 hours and you're done with the program buster.
It is.
So it's just so obvious. It's just so obvious once you see it.
And it's spreading too. I was just like, I don't know, it must be the last, 4 or 5 videos I've watched that from people that have got nothing at all to do with this genre. And they're all mentioning it.
Yep.
They're all starting to talk about the past and history. And as soon as the word history pops up, someone's in there with Tartaria and the buildings. It's just,
I know.
It's growing so, like literally a year ago, like no one knew, I remember I was posting pictures on Facebook and, no one knew anything. They would just say, oh yeah, they're nice buildings. But now people are like, oh yeah, you post that and they're like, oh, that's Tartarian. That's, so it's, if you think there's no great awakening,
oh man,
I don't know where you are, sitting in the corner somewhere.
We have become so annoying with like podcast. Oh, what have I just done? Hang on, I've just turned on a video.
Oh,
I have to mute myself to find the video I've just unleashed.
Oh. Can
you hear that?
I can't see or hear anything.
Okay. Well, somewhere in my feed right now, I'm playing a video. So I was going to show you the Facebook page with the orphans.
The orphans.
But I have to, you're going to have to just talk for a second while I figure out where this video is that's playing.
Cool. Yeah, the orphans. I've actually done a video on it a while back on it. Probably need to revisit it, but yeah, orphan trains everywhere, even in Australia. And of course, with Australia, they try and, change the narrative a bit and call them, like child convicts and all this kind of stuff. It's more that, they were, which is even a worse story. It's not that they were kids without parents. We were just grabbing kids from Britain and sending them over here and calling them thieves because they were hungry. So we've got this massive story, but, you look into, the numbers and the boats, the amount of boats that came here and stuff and what had to come with them as far as troops and horses and all the stuff, there's just not enough transport to get all this stuff here, so again, it's like, where did these, kids come from? And why was there such an abundance of them? And what seems like, as far as we can see in the pictures, an abundance of adults. Like we see adults with no kids, like none, like no teenagers, no little nothing. And then suddenly you've got all these orphan kids and all these adults that are like holding these kids like they don't know what the hell they are.
Yep.
So and that was only, 120 years ago.
Yep.
So it's, something's.
It's an absurd story. It's another absurdity with this whole thing.
It is. And that's probably another thing, because we know the orphan trains, there were orphan boats, and this is also the shifting of the populations, right?
Yeah.
You move everyone around so no one's got a tie to the land and no one's got a heritage, and you just give them their false one and get them, really offended when people tell them it's wrong, and off you go.
I tell you, like, I did a post the other day, and it just came up. There was a carousel here in Melbourne, and like the bullshit history on it was like in the 1859 or whatever, these people, they decided that they wanted to import this carousel to Melbourne. And like, I'm just thinking in my head, like, now take it, like, it's not like they had airplanes or cargo ships or freaking Amazon delivery. They literally had to load, like, you got like these boats leaving from the UK. They're a set size. They've got to carry on those boats enough supplies to get on this massive journey. This isn't like a get in there and get off in 24 hours. This is like a month at sea.
Yeah.
And survive all of that and feed everyone and provide water, and like that's enough of a bulk. And then to add shit like a carousel, like a merry-go-round, like an organ, like the biggest organ ever in Australia, like none of it makes sense. We would never, if you were a functioning society that seriously was pioneering a new country, like your priorities are like not carousels. Your priorities are, of course, your basic needs for survival. And like, we're talking about how much resources had to come over here, if this story was true, to build what is in front of us now. Like, it's virtually impossible. You couldn't even do it with like the Evergreen at your service, with literally 1 million shipping containers full of things.
Look what goes on today, with it takes, when people build, custom built machines and that, takes years, and then when they come over, I mean, everything has to be so, like, literally this piece goes here, it's all this massive thing. But then they have to send a team with it as well.
Yes.
Who can actually read it and either assemble it or teach the other people how to assemble it. So it's not like you just, like you said, you don't just go on Amazon and go, send me a carousel. And
if you lose a part, you can't just go and order one. You've got to get mail back.
What about maintenance?
I mean, there's so many things.
Right? They have to import it all from overseas. So when something breaks, one of the cogs breaks, what happens? Sorry, guys, shut down for 9 months. And that's if what they send over is the right piece. Look at what happens today, how many, you get the wrong stuff all the time.
All the time. And like, there would have been a skew of things too. And then you look at, like, you can't just call someone. Like, you'd have to like write it all down and put it on a boat back. And then that was 6 months, and then back. Like, it's just absurd.
It's absurd. And, it's not like these were, this was before, Henry Ford, before the production line. It's not like that. Everything was pretty much a one-off.
Yeah.
So to make it, you have to make all the dies and everything to make every single little piece of machinery. You like, to make a little cog, you have to make all the stuff to make that cog.
Yeah.
And then, so it's, I think, people living today kind of look around and it's such a, quick fix, instant, click together society that people think, oh, well, it just would have been simple.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No. Once you start looking at it and really thinking about it, because that's really the only difference here. It's like whether you've just bothered to stop and think about it. Because if you like stop and think about it, like, it's all of it's absurd, none of it makes sense, and it's all completely impossible. Like, if you actually bother to think about it, it's like them telling us that, like, a house built out of like logs in the forest can literally be done in like 10 minutes. It's like, it's that absurd. Like, it's impossible. There's so many actions that have to follow through to bring something like that together. If you have built a home and participated, how much has to come together to like be a plasterer and the plumber and the builder and the tiler and the landscaper and the doing the foundations. Like, you've got to think about a lot of stuff. Like, it's absurd to think like the building behind me was up in a year. It's just crazy.
It's stupid. I mean, it's hard enough just to build a wooden shack when you're in a new country.
It is.
And you've only got, because they don't have tools. They might have, a good axe and a good saw, they got to go and make their nails and make the shingles, and you've got to think about glass. Where's all this stuff coming from? I mean, they're not going to go out and collect sand and melt it down into glass panels, and just to build a little shack back then would have been a massive undertaking. Yeah. So, you talk about this, and there's no trade schools, right? Yeah. Yes. Where's all the the tradies coming from? Where are they getting trained?
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, there is no story, but I can imagine what they'll probably say, oh, they're all apprentices from Britain, or overseas. And it's like, oh, you've got a tradesman now. You can go out and make money, or we can send you off to like a penal colony over somewhere where you've got no family. What do you reckon? Yeah. No one's going to come,
It is absurd. And like, so, I mean, what I found the orphan one's always like been, that's a tough one for people to deal with. But it's a lot nicer than last year's disclosure around children. Like,
well, yeah,
it's because there's a bit of separation in time.
Is that, part of it, that they believe they own us
for sure.
Like property,
Yeah.
This is a thing that might be how they, explain it away to themselves,
Yeah, I mean, we're branded and labelled and given a number and a pat on the bum and a certificate when we were born.
Well, exactly right. Yeah.
That's what happens to us. They own us. Like, I mean, just today I was like fighting with my council at my farm because like I'm really opposed to paying council rates. Like I fucking hate
they're
that
illegal. That says
they're
in the
illegal.
Constitution, no
I
third tier of government.
I know. And my God, the threats you get about them coming in and taking your house and selling it, and I mean, it's just absurd.
Write them a letter and just say, can you just
prove
of
course
just prove that you've got any authority at all. Send me the paperwork.
Yes, I should actually.
A council has any authority.
Yeah, I know. I've been on this council now, like dealing with this one for like 13 years.
Councils are horrendous. I don't know why they're so bad.
Annoying. Oh God, they're so illegal.
They just seem to attract all the Karens and Darrens, don't they?
They are, and they are so illegal. It's basically Robin Hood. It's basically the serf mentality.
They just sit there and siphon money off everyone.
They do. They just rate taxes payable, and you've got no choice. And then they threaten to take your property and home. You get
nothing for it. You question them, and they threaten.
It's a serf system. We're in a serf system there. And like, do you fucking have the energy to fight back? Like I have been doing for 13 years with them, and like I just get put with like the accountant or the secretary or whatever, and like occasionally the mayor will write to me and like put in something and give me some act, here's the act, blah blah blah, and it's just like come on, let's get through this game, guys. Let's get to the other side. So all right,
so great, you just say, come on, this isn't a play, we're not acting.
It's just like, yeah. Anyway, like 20 years ago, inalienable rights and straw man and learning about that was fascinating to me. Like I was just like right in there, like I am down this rabbit hole. And I was really exciting. And when you have to like continue to apply it for the next 20 years, it gets exhausting because you're dealing with like a system that just like is illegal to start with. So they don't care if you're telling them they're illegal. They're already illegal. They don't care. They own that shit, man.
But most of them, like especially the cops, they don't even know the law. They have no idea of their jurisdiction or anything. And neither does anyone really. But they all think that they know everything.
Yeah.
And they'll just sit there and they want to prove they're right, but they just know nothing.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is they'll sit there and they'll argue with you to prove that they're a slave.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you doing? Jail's that way. Just go and ask them to lock you up now.
Larry, we'll shake all that energy off for a second because I read this post this week. I have to read it to you before I show the pictures because I can't do both at the same time. So basically this was about the proof of orphans coming into Melbourne. So proof that there were ships here in Melbourne specifically dealing with orphans. So, and what it reads in the post is, is Sir Harry Smith, ship Hobson's Bay, Williamstown, Victoria. 4 ships were used for reformatories for children from 1864 to 1872. Some were sent out on the Hulk, the Success from England, as Port Arthur was ordered closed by Queen Victoria. as she heard of the atrocities, whatever. The children were kept in single cells and given menial tasks during the day. After the number exceeded 500, comprising orphans, this is on a ship, just 500 on a ship, neglected children and children who had committed minor offences, the ships were deemed unsafe. Some children were sent to F divisions at Pentridge, which is a jail. Others were sent to a reformatory school in Geelong, Ballarat, and the rest went to Mount Royal Hospital in Melbourne in 1877. So, and then the author here says, the author, by the way, is Tony Bayer. And it says, I've tried researching public records on this subject. Many records were destroyed in the early 1970s under order of the British Royal Crown and the Victorian government.
Nice.
I have an interest as I worked at Mount Royal Hospital as a registered nurse in the 1980s, pulling out beds, I found cast iron hoops embedded in the wall. These were used for children's shackles. It was a different time. Remember Charles Dickens' story, Oliver Twist? England was burgeoning with orphan children. What better way to rid London of them by sending them to Melbourne? If your surname is Smith, you are a Melbourneite, you may be descended from these boys and girls. So let me screenshot.
So brought over in cells and then put into prisons. And they call them orphans. I mean, I'm being
very
good story, bro.
So that's one of one of the ships. And let's see if I can show you all of them. Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, that's one of the ships. Yeah. I think I don't know if they're workers. They look like men.
Yeah, they look like they just
But that's a pretty fucking big ship, man.
Big pirate ship, man, and it's called Success. That's not very nice.
So basically, they're saying that 500 children at a time was kept in single cells on these ships.
That's very small cells. I heard Max Eigen actually the other day, and he mentioned that in Port Arthur, when you look at the old buildings and the cells, that they're very small. Look like they're,
the children.
Like exactly. Like a man couldn't actually lie down in them. So were they all for children?
Oh, for children, because we didn't import convicts, we imported children and soldiers. That's what we imported to Australia.
So where did all these children come from? I mean,
these are the illustrations. Sorry, it's a bit blurry, but so basically it looks like they were just basically chained up. So I'll see if there's any. I think that's all picture-wise. But yeah, I mean, these are the depictions, and like this reminds me of some of Martin's pictures with the giant ships and the little cities on top. But yeah, I mean, we're talking pretty big stuff.
And this is the thing. I mean, I wonder how many people are descended from orphans. I mean, it looks like, if we look into it, we probably, most of us are, because we don't really know our history, do we?
We don't know our history.
I mean, who can name their great-great-grandfather? Not many people.
No, not at all.
So we're a displaced population, but then, they give us all these stories. We as white people seem to have missed out on most of them. It seems to be other sort of cultures that have a more ingrained story that they really hold on to, and it becomes so ingrained that you can't question it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is clearly part of the whole program, right? Why would you put something in if people can question it? That'd be an extra thing. Oh, if we got someone pop in.
Yes, we've got Marty. Marty's
Marty
popping in. Marty, right. He's our special surprise guest for this day. I just finished. Hi, Marty, are you there? Put on your video if you'd like to jump onto the call. I'm just showing some pictures. So, look, this is one of the pictures. That's all kids. Can you still see that?
Yeah, wow.
Yep. Look at them.
So they had to work as well, and then at night they get locked up in their cell. That's nice.